Thank you for joining us. Please like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And for more information about this show and the rest of Chor Leoni's season, visit chorleoni.org and subscribe to our newsletter, The E-Roar.
This episode of Chor Leoni Inside is proudly sponsored by an anonymous donor. Thank you very much.
They say it's all right. They say it's all right. Say it's all right. Have a good time, 'cause it's all right.
Hello and welcome to Chor Leoni Inside. My name is Eric Light. I am the artistic director of Chor Leoni Men's Choir, based here in Vancouver, British Columbia. And we are so glad to have you for this show. I can guarantee we're going to have a wonderful conversation with our guest composer, Melissa Dunphy. She's writing just really extraordinary and fresh and interesting works, and I just have been really excited to talk with her and glad this show can help us do it. Before we get her on the show, I want to play a little bit from Chor Leoni, and this was from a concert that Chor Leoni did last February when we collaborated with the Montreal-based group La Nef, and we did a concert of sea songs and shanties. And I decided to kind of go non-traditional and pick a work by Peter Schickele, the composer, American composer Peter Schickele, who many of you may know otherwise as P.D.Q. Bach. Peter Schickele also writes, traditional and serious music as well under his own name, and this is one of those pieces. And this is a work called Jonah's Song, and the text of it is actually by Herman Melville, coming from his very famous novel, Moby Dick. And if you remember that story at all, in the beginning, Queequeg and Ishmael are walking around, and they kind of stumble upon a church service, and a hymn is sung, and it's an original poem by Melville talking about Jonah and the whale, and asking for deliverance from the dangers of the sea and for their own souls. In this, it's kind of a foretaste of what's about to happen in the rest of the novel. But this is wonderfully set in kind of a sacred harp style singing by Peter Schickele, and we had great fun performing this work. This is Jonah's Song by Peter Schickele.
The ribs and terrors in the whale arched over me a dismal gloom, while all God's sunlit waves rolled by and left me deeping down to doom. I saw the opening of hell with endless pains and sorrows there, which none
That was Jonah's song by Peter Schickele, aka PDQ Bach, in his real guise, and what a fun sing that is. That was from our concert with La Nef that we did, an ensemble from Montreal that we did last February, and we'll be playing more of that as the year keeps going. So look for more from Cantus and La Nef going forward as we head out to sea. I want to bring in our guest for our show today. Her name is Melissa Dunphy, and I have been a huge fan of her work for a long time. Please welcome Melissa. Hi.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. Also, I'm a super Peter Schickele fangirl, so...
Oh! Good. I'm
oh my
glad.
Gosh.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So yes, since I was like 14, I've been collecting his CDs.
How could you not? I mean, it was just like, especially back in like the heyday of the PDQ. I mean, Iphigenia in Brooklyn. Come on. The seasonings. Yes, I gotta stop. But yeah, it's wonderful to have you here. Some of our folks may not know your work, especially we're kind of focused here on the west side. Give us a little bit of your bio, your history, how you came to be a composer.
Sure. So I'm originally from Australia, and I came to composing via a kind of circuitous route, whatever you say in this country. My accent is all over the place. So I've lived in America now for 17 years. I married an American in my early 20s and moved to America and became a composer for the first time when I was 24. I went back to school to get my Bachelor of Music, a little bit older than everyone else around me as I was going through school, and then finally finished my PhD only a couple of years ago, actually. But along the way, I got a reputation for writing political and theatrical vocal music. I'm really into music with text, and I write about things that I'm really passionate about. So a lot of choral music that's about social justice issues and things that inspire me, either with hope or with anger, or all kinds of things that a lot of it stems from my journey into becoming an American. I think, yeah.
That's a really interesting, that I understand,
I'm an immigrant, and my parents were immigrants to Australia, so I'm like the immigrant daughter of immigrants. And a lot of the things, and we'll talk about it with some of the music that we have here. But a lot of it is kind of me discovering that identity and thinking about what it means to be an American immigrant.
That's it's always that outside perspective. I have to say, since moving to Canada from growing up in the United States, you just start to see things differently, and it's very clear that you're coming at all of this in terms of, especially your choral writing, with a really, really, really fresh perspective, and I find it just so refreshing. Talking about music is one thing, but hearing it is another. I want to play a piece of music of yours sung by an ensemble that I know a little bit about, Cantus. Tell us a little bit about Strange About Stars, this performance that they have.
So I wrote this while I was in grad school, and I wanted to write just a short a cappella piece, and I was having a lot of trouble finding a text. And I stumbled across this poet, Lola Ridge, who I had never heard of. She was writing at the beginning of the 20th century. But you know how some poets writing in that period, they can sound like super romantic, like really... like a lot of
trying to be Shelley over and over again here or something.
Totally. And so I wasn't really connecting with a lot of it until I found Lola Ridge. Her writing sounds like it could have been written yesterday. I mean, she has such an amazing modern voice. She was a humanist, and this is the interesting part. She was an immigrant herself. She was born in Ireland, moved to New Zealand and Australia where she grew up, and then in her 30s, she moved to New York City. And that's when she became a poet. So I saw sort of kind of my journey of, coming to the art form a little older than you would expect. And
little geography.
The same kind of, journey from one place to another. And so much of her poetry is either thinking about her childhood back in the Antipodes, or thinking about like the issues that she saw in New York City with poverty and with, inequality that she was looking at in New York City. And I was just like, a kindred spirit from 100 years ago. This is amazing. So I set some of her music. This piece, It's Strange About Stars, is about her childhood. About an incident in her childhood. And the thing that struck me is what's in between the words. To me, there's a whole story going on underneath the words, some kind of trauma that she doesn't talk about overtly, but you can hear it in the words. Cantus, I think, picked up on that too, because they chose this piece to include in a narrative of the little match girl that they constructed with different choral works. So they very kindly agreed to perform a TTBB arrangement of this piece.
Well, this is our friends at Cantus, our friend Melissa Dunphy, and her work, It's Strange About Stars.
It's strange about stars. It's strange about stars. You have to be still, still when they
That was Strange About Stars, music by Melissa Dunphy, sung by our friends at Cantus. That is just a wonderful, wonderful piece, and thank you for putting it into men's voices. It's nice to it's a nice additive to our repertoire, and I'm sure I'm going to do it someday very soon when it can be done.
Yeah, when we can sing again.
What I want to ask you is, when you're confronted with a project, the choice, the things that we say no to are in many ways as important as the things we say yes to in terms of finding the text. And but a lot of it also is, I think, about finding the fit between the ensemble, maybe that ensemble's audience, their particular abilities, or things that they're good at, or places that they want to be nudged further. When you're working on a project or approached by a project, how are you navigating the fits between ensemble, audience, project, your own journey, etc.? There's a lot to unpack there, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts that you have to think about, I think, in that kind of situation. So, when I'm approached by someone or an ensemble that I don't know super duper well, my first job as a composer is, as I call it, to research the instrument. So just as if I were writing for, I don't know, a contrabassoon or some instrument that I've not played before or listened to a whole lot of, it's my job to go down the rabbit hole of, let's take a look at everything that this ensemble has sung. Let's listen to it. Let's get it into my bones. I'm very lucky as a composer in that I love doing pastiches. I've always loved pastiche work. Even when I was a kid in high school, my favorite music projects were the ones where, it's a bit old school now, but it's, the teacher says, write something that sounds like Bach, write something that sounds like Mozart, write something that sounds like Satie. And those were always some of my favorite projects. And it's not quite pastiche, it's in the same way, but if you sit and listen to what an ensemble has done in the past, you get a real sense of who the ensemble is as an organism. What sounds really good for them? What do they clearly love to sing? Yeah. And, the flip side, what was clearly uncomfortable for them and they didn't quite carry off, what does the conductor like to do with the ensemble as well? The conductor sort of being the head, what do they really dig into and love performing? So that's kind of my first order of business. Do I think about the audience? I think that kind of depends a little bit. I think I get a good sense from who the choir is, what the audience is going to be like. So, if my job as a composer is to have everyone go, I loved singing that, it was cool to sing, my job is done.
That's a great, and it's certainly a great first place to start, because then you're going to get, whatever 60 people in the choir they're going to feel good while they're doing it. And all of that love just starts, and communication then begins to pour out. And even if sometimes your head is in the game, but your body and your heart are not feeling it because of maybe how it's written or whatever else, that can also be, I think, a barrier in that last part of the communication, to bring that across. I've been in that boat as well. I want to play a piece of yours that I really love, and this is Omaha Beach. And could you just tell us a little bit about the genesis of this project, where this text came from, and how you put this piece together?
For sure. So right before I started grad school, I had this real hit with a political piece called The Gonzalez Cantata, which is like a comedy neo-Baroque pastiche of a Baroque cantata. It was very funny, and it got on the Rachel Maddow show, and everyone was like, oh, comedy, okay. I wanted to write something, I think, that was sort of the opposite of that, because I didn't want to pigeonhole myself as a composer as the person who does like funny choral music, I think, in a way.
Peter Schickele.
Well, and I sent the Gonzalez Cantata to Peter Schickele, and he responded to me and like said really nice things. And that was like, yeah. And I'm like, I can retire as a comedian now.
I did it.
Schickele, yeah. We're done. So I wanted to write something that was really moving. I think I had that in my head when in 2009 I saw a video on YouTube that was doing the rounds on social media of a World War II veteran named Philip Spooner, who's 86 years old, who spoke in front of the Maine Senate in favor of marriage equality. At the time, marriage equality was not the law of the land. People were still fighting for the right of same-sex couples to marry. And it wasn't a given that it was going to pass. And this video, when I watched it, I cried so hard watching this video. I mean, soaked a dishcloth with my tears, in part because it gave a sense of hope. So it's a little bit different to, you know, me getting really angry about a political issue. This was
this is not a finger wagging piece.
Right.
It's not. It's the opposite.
Totally not. Yeah. Not at all. So, you know, this guy who's a World War II veteran, who was a lifelong Republican, a VFW chaplain, spoke out in support of marriage equality. And the sort of the linchpin of what he says is, you know, he fought in World War II. He saw such horrors there. And when he was asked recently at the time, does he support gay and lesbian rights? He answers, "What do you think I fought for at Omaha Beach?" And then at the end of the speech, he reveals that he has 4 sons and one of them is gay, and he doesn't believe that his gay son should miss out on anything just because he's gay. I mean, I get emotional thinking about it right now because it's such a beautiful speech. And the thing that makes it even more beautiful is this guy's perspective is basically unimpeachable by anyone on the left or right. You know what I mean?
It just all seems so very simple and decent.
Yeah. And American and appealing to those really American values of freedom and equality. So anyway, after I'd finished crying, I watched it again and I cried again. And I had such a huge reaction to it. And I did what so many composers do when they have a big reaction like that. I said, I got to turn this into a piece of music. And since then, this piece has been sung all around the country and actually all around the world. It's been performed, you know, in the UK, it's been performed in Australia. And, you know, I've done a men's chorus arrangement that's been sung by Cantus and Chanticleer. And it's still, unfortunately, still relevant because gay rights are under attack even in 2020. And, but it's still reaching people in a way almost that I couldn't predict when I was writing it. It's still making people think about this issue over and above, you know, what I think I was trying to communicate when I wrote it. So again, lucky composer me.
Hey, lucky composer you. Lucky listeners us. This is What Do You Think I Fought For at Omaha Beach by Melissa Dunphy. That was What Do You Think I Fought For at Omaha Beach, music by Melissa Dunphy. It's just such a beautiful, beautiful sentiment and gorgeously put together. For a first a cappella piece, I think the Magic 8 Ball says all signs point to yes, that you're gonna do this okay.
It certainly kept me writing a cappella choral works.
Well, good, and
yeah.
we will benefit from that. One of the things that really strikes me about your work is, and I think it can be maybe some of the pitfalls that I sometimes see when social justice themes are brought up, is you like to lean into opposites and some of the contradictions. So finding some of like the profound things in maybe mundane texts, or finding some of the humor in a serious topic, but understanding that, and in my opinion, sort of opening up our emotional pores to allow other feelings to happen while that message is sort of wheedling into us. Am I wrong in thinking that that's sort of a deliberate thought on your part?
Oh, it totally is. I mean, again, it's, I grew up a theater kid doing a lot of Shakespeare, and I think I took from Shakespeare's plays that lesson of, you can't have tragedy without a little bit of comedy in, and vice versa.
Well, and I think the next piece that we're going to play comes from a larger form a cappella work, American Dreamers, and I think you really do those contrasts and contradictions really, really well in this piece. Can you tell us about this project, what this is about, where these texts came from?
Sure. So the community chorus here in Philadelphia, quite an advanced community chorus, Philharmonia, approached me, I guess it was probably 2017, and said, we would like to commission a piece of music from you. They had just sung Omaha Beach, so they knew the work that I do. And they wanted to do a piece that was about the topic of immigration, particularly undocumented immigrants who come to America and are threatened by the administration, threatening to deport them, even if they've been in the country since they were babies or children. And of course, this is an issue that I feel very strongly about. Both of my parents, biological parents, were refugees to Australia, fleeing. My mother came from China during the Cultural Revolution, swam to Hong Kong when she was 22 to get out, and then eventually landed in Australia. My biological father is from Greece and escaped Greece in the chaos post-World War II, like a lot of Greek people did. And then, of course, I was an immigrant to America, and even though I was a legal immigrant, for want of a better word, I came on one of those creepy 90-day fiance visas because I had fallen in love with an American. You
do not need to say anything you shouldn't say, unless everything's all good and legal now. I don't want to get you in any trouble. Yeah.
I'm just saying, having gone through that process as a legit person who was in love with an American and wanted to make a permanent relationship with an American, the whole process exposed to me the absurdity of the process and the bureaucracy and the pencil pushing and the luck of the draw, where one small misstep can land you deported and unable to see your loved ones for years. And what if that process hadn't been available to me? Then my husband of 17 years and I would not have been able to get married in the first place. This is also harkening back to the issue of gay marriage, where people didn't have that avenue if you were a same-sex couple. This is all to say, these are issues that I felt some connection to, but also I wasn't an undocumented immigrant to America. So I went on a research jag, my favorite thing to do. I found on Twitter a hashtag undocupoets, all one word, that were basically poets living in America who either were undocumented immigrants or had experienced some life as an undocumented immigrant to America. And they were bravely, during the Trump administration and even the end of the Obama administration, writing poetry about their experiences in an attempt to humanize them and to show what I strongly believe, which is that these people are Americans. They're Americans. That's it. You know, I'm referring to them as undocumented immigrants, but that's actually, you know, I don't like that I'm referring to it that way. They're Americans who are having their American, you know, their right to live in this country, which I believe is their right, threatened by bureaucracy, nonsensical bureaucracy. You know, the idea of deporting these people back to a country that they have no connection with when they have lived life as productive Americans, or even not, you know, they've lived in America for this time. They're Americans. They have just as much right to be here as people who, you know, stole this country from indigenous peoples 200, 300
Yeah, you can
years
go
ago.
back and make a real easy case. Yeah. Absolutely.
See, right? It's like, yeah. So I spent some time, you know, listening to what this movement had to say and the many different perspectives in this movement. And then I reached out to 5 different writers, some of them professional writers and poets, some of them not professional writers and poets, but people who had, you know, written a blog entry or written an essay about what it was like to be them in this situation, and asked if I could set their text to music. I was very lucky. They all said yes. I created this multi-movement work. I've written each of the movements in a really different style. And the one which I think we're going to hear is more milk makes it better, which is the surprising number in it because it's actually the funniest movement in there. People come to a concert that's about, you know, this issue, and they think it's going to be like
very serious.
Yeah, like a dirge of, and this is something that I heard from many of the actual people in these situations. They're so sick and tired of privileged, usually white liberals being like, look at these victims that we have to save. Let us save them with our progressive politics. You know, they're not victims. That's not the only part of their personality that we pay attention to, and that's garbage. You know, they're Americans. They are as American as you or I. They have experiences that we can all relate to as Americans.
Like eating Kraft cheese. So give us the just like the gist of where this particular text comes from in this. Yeah, because it's brilliant. Yeah.
It's kind of hilarious. So Janine Joseph, the poet, grew up in the Philippines, and when she was a little girl, she booked a job on a Kraft cheddar cheese commercial, where she had to sing like you do. I mean, you know, I did some commercials when I lived in Australia. I get it. So she, as a little girl, had to bite into a slice of Kraft cheddar cheese and there was a jingle which goes, Kraft cheddar cheese, more milk makes it better. She actually sung this recorded this herself, singing it to me and sent it to me so that I could hear what it sounded like. And I used that theme as the basis for this song, and then just like messed with it a whole bunch. So it's a story. She tells in this poem the story of coming to America and finding yourself I can relate to this so hard, surrounded by the cornucopia of high-calorie American delicious foods, including massive amounts of like full cream dairy milk. Like, you know, I moved to Pennsylvania. We have a lot of cows here. The dairy products are amazing. And you just eat and eat and eat and drink and drink and drink. And then you have this struggle with your weight. You know, I tried to honor the wry humor in this poem, and I think it's the piece that, you know, the audience starts cracking up laughing at the end of it, and then always feels a bit like, should we be laughing? Isn't this a serious work about immigrants? And I'm like, no, the point is that they are Americans and they laugh and have fun just like anybody else. So with cheese.
With cheese. I am so thankful that you were able to be with us and to share your music and your perspectives. I wish you nothing but the best. And again, thank you for being with us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I really hope you enjoy the music.
Oh, we will. This is More Milk Makes It Better from American Dreamers by Melissa Dunphy. That was More Milk Makes It Better by Melissa Dunphy. I never thought I would be able to bring to you a piece about Kraft cheese, and I'm glad that we did. It's a really fun piece, and the whole of that work, if you get a chance to hear it sung really beautifully by the singers, Minnesota choral artists, that's up on YouTube. Do take the time to watch it. I found it to be one of the most moving pieces I've heard in an awfully long time, and that's certainly one of the funnier moments. We want to play one more piece for you before we go. And since Melissa was talking to us from sunny Philadelphia, I wanted to play a work by another Philadelphia composer, Robert Moran. And this is a work that he wrote called Yahrzeit, one of his few works for TTBB Voices. And Yahrzeit, if you don't know what the tradition is, it's in the Jewish faith. It's the remembrance of someone who has passed on the year anniversary of their death. Usually a candle is lit and remembrances are had. And this was a very personal piece. Robert was asked to write this for a friend who passed away from complications to AIDS. I believe this was in the late '90s when this piece was written, and Robert actually, the very first performance was backstage at the Metropolitan Opera. He got a few of the folks from the Metropolitan Opera chorus to, I think, in some back room there, record the work, and that was how I learned it first. And Chor Leoni's recording is only the second their recording of the piece. And it talks about the seasons and remembering throughout all the seasons. In many points of the piece, multiple texts are happening at the same time, and it's really, you get a sense of the cyclical nature of time and remembering over and over and over again. But I love the sort of ultimate line in the work, where it's so every corner of the year proclaims the growth of love, and that's kind of where all of this is leading. This is a wonderful piece in a film that was put together by our own Phil Jack. This is Yahrzeit by Robert Moran, Chor Leoni singing. That was Yahrzeit, music by Robert Moran, sung by Chor Leoni Men's Choir, and lovely new video with all of the texts by Phil Jack, our director and producer. I'm going to bring him in. Oh, Phil.
Hello, Eric.
Oh, it's good to see you. It's nice to have you here. Thanks for that beautiful video, and I know you're going to be making a few other new videos as we get ready for our very first digital concert of the season for Remembrance Day.
That's right. I'm hard at work.
Yeah, it's really been fun for me to get into some of the performances that we have, some of the music that we have, and working with you on curating all of this and creating some new videos. And we're going to be sharing that with everybody on November 10th and 11th. It's going to be free for everybody. You like free, don't you, Phil?
Sure. Who doesn't?
You just look like the kind of guy that likes free stuff.
I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but okay.
Just own it, baby. Just own it. But if you want to watch this a very important part of Chor Leoni's tradition, and I think will be a beautiful and moving and I think original kind of digital concert, all of the links are down below in the descriptors, either here on Facebook or on YouTube, depending on where you are watching us. And I hope you can take some time on November 10th and or 11th to share in this time of reflection and beauty. I think you agree with me, Phil. I think it's just one of the better things that we do every year.
It's always my favorite program of the year.
I agree. Well, thank you so much, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. We're going to be featuring another composer, Chor Leoni's composer in residence, Zachary Wadsworth. We be safe, everybody, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, everyone. Please like and subscribe.
They say it's alright. They say it's alright. Say it's alright. Have a good time. Cause it's alright. Whoa, it's alright. Now we gonna move it slow. Up in the lights are low.